Hi guys, welcome to the realm of astrology. My name is Ria and today I am going to take you through the astrology for the week of Jan 10th to Jan 16th, 2022. So for this video, I am going to give you the overview of the astrology in the beginning. Then I'm going to walk you through each day's energy with the charts, and towards the end of the video I will sum up each day and pull a few cards for the week's energy. And this video will be divided into chapters, so you can click on whichever part you want to watch and go directly to that. I will also divide up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so you can click on whichever day's energy you want to watch and go directly to that. So let's get started. Now, a lot has been happening in astrology lately. Jupiter has entered the sign of Pisces. That happened end of December. Venus is retrograde. And speaking of Venus retrograde, you can see Venus right here at 17 degrees as we begin the week, and it's in red font, which means it's retrograde. And Venus retrogrades are really not the best time to start something absolutely new when it comes to projects and relationships. And you can see here, Venus is in the sign of Capricorn, right? It's retrograding in the sign of Capricorn. And what this means is that this Venus retrograde, which started on December 19th, 2021, is about reviewing our projects and relationships, Venus, with the mindset of, can I be serious about these things? Can I commit to this project? Can I commit to this relationship for the long run? Right? That's the first aspect that we are approaching this Venus retrograde with. The second important thing about this Venus retrograde is that Venus retrograded at about 26 degrees of Capricorn, right? And you can see its Pluto is right there, which means Venus was very close to Pluto when it began its retrograde. And what that means is that this retrograde period, starting December 19th to Jan 29th, 2022, is about transforming Pluto, right? Ending, beginning, things associated with Venus. What are those things? Relationships, projects, and self-worth. So this Venus retrograde is about figuring out what you can commit to when it comes to relationships and projects, what you can be serious about when it comes to relationships and projects for the long run. And it is also about transforming these things. It could be that you need to end a project that's not serving you, or end a particular way of doing a project that's not serving you anymore. Or it could be that you need to begin a new project, right? Or begin a different way of doing a certain project. And this week is no different. Venus is retrograde this week, which means we will be doing this work of figuring out what to end, what to begin, what to transform, what to let go of, what we can commit to, what we can be serious about when it comes to relationships, projects, and self-worth. And another thing about this Venus retrograde is that the last time Venus retrograded was in the sign of Capricorn was in the year 2013 December, 2014 Jan, so 8 years ago. So similar themes might come back into your life from back then for you to close out and review. So think of your life back then, what's coming back up, and you might need to figure things out associated with that as well. And that's Venus retrograde. Now, one more thing about Venus retrograde before we move on is that on Sunday, yesterday, Jan 9th, Venus conjuncted the Sun. Right now, let me clean up the chart. You'll see this. Venus and the Sun, right? So yesterday, Venus and the Sun met up, and this is the halfway point of the Venus retrograde cycle. And whenever Venus meets up with the Sun, it transitions from being an evening star to a morning star. And it, in terms of our personal lives, this can also mean that we begin to find clarity about our projects and relationships, right? Because we've been reviewing these things, but now is the point, the next phase of the Venus retrograde cycle, where we'll begin to find some clarity associated with projects and relationships, what changes to make, what to end, what to begin, what to transform. Things will start getting clearer. So that's what we enter the week with concerning Venus, right? Now, the second thing about this week is that on Jan 9th, Sunday, yesterday, we had the first quarter square of the moon, right? And a first quarter square of the moon is essentially a period of a week. So we'll be in this period, the first quarter square of the moon, till Jan 17th, when we will have the full moon in Cancer. Now, this entire week is about adjustments. It's about overcoming little obstacles. It's about overcoming little challenges to the new energy that came into our life on Jan 2nd with the new moon in Capricorn. So if you don't know about that, be very quick. On Jan 2nd, we had a new moon in Capricorn, and new moons typically bring with them new energy. So that's what happened. And this energy was more about having sudden insights, realizations, epiphanies. And that was the energy. So this week is a continuation of that energy, but it's about figuring out what adjustments to make concerning that energy. And you can always watch my new moon video, which is on my channel. Now, those are the two energies that we are entering this week with. Few more things before we move on to the events of this week. One more thing is that we've had the Saturn-Uranus square recently, right? We've had Uranus here in the sign of Taurus at 10 degrees and Saturn here in the sign of Aquarius. And they squared on December 24th, made a 90-degree angle. And this energy is an energy we've been feeling all of 2021, and we will feel all of 2022 as well. Not all, but till October, November, till the end of the year. And this energy is about change. It's about embracing the new. It's about getting rid of the old. And all of 2021, we've done that work, right? It's also about embracing our true, unique, authentic self. And we've done that all of 2021. And why I bring this energy up is because towards the end of December, especially December 24th, this energy was at its peak. It came exact at 11 degrees, right? And since then, we've been feeling the intensity of this energy that is demanding change, that is demanding us to let go of old things, that is demanding us to embrace our true, unique, authentic self. So in the background, we've been feeling this intensity. And this week, the intensity will be a little less. And that's because you can see here, Uranus is at 10:50 and Saturn is at 12:58, and this week it will hit 13 degrees. So the orb, the gap between the degrees is increasing, which means the intensity is decreasing. So that work, we've done most of that work of embracing the new, getting rid of the old, embracing our true, unique, authentic self. And we did most of this work in 2021. Coming into 2022, we will continue the work, but at a lesser intensity. The hard work was primarily done last year. So that's another thing I wanted to mention, that intensity that you're feeling, right, that we're all feeling in the background is easing off slowly this week. Now, one more thing before we move on is that Jupiter here entered Pisces December 28th, 29th, around then. And Jupiter functions really well in Pisces. It used to rule the sign of Pisces. And Jupiter is a benefic. It gives gifts and blessings and rewards. And what that means is that the blessings, the gifts, the rewards, the lessons will come easier as Jupiter moves through the sign of Pisces for the next 6 months. For the past 2 years, Jupiter has been where? It's been in Capricorn and then Aquarius, two Saturn-ruled energies, right? Saturn rules Capricorn and Saturn used to rule Aquarius. Now Uranus does. But Jupiter does not function well in Capricorn or Aquarius. And what that means is that the blessings, the rewards, the lessons, the healing doesn't happen very well. So that's not happened very well in the past 2 years. But in the next 6 months, we will see Jupiter do its job really well, do its job of giving blessings and rewards and healing and even lessons, right? So that's another thing that's going on in the background that we must keep in mind. And that's pretty much it. Now this week we will have a few events. Now if you are someone who does not want the little details of each and every day, then this is the big picture that you need to know of. And then towards after this, I will move on to the charts where I'll get into the details of each day. So the big picture of this week is that Mars is going to square Neptune, the Sun is going to sextile Neptune, and we will also have the Sun Pluto conjunction. And let's go through these three energies one by one. Sun Neptune sextile can bestow a spiritual, creative aspect when it comes to our consciousness. We can feel very spiritual, we can feel very creative. It could also be an energy that helps us align our identity more with our spiritual path. And with so much going on, right, with so many energies demanding change, demanding transformation, demanding us to let go and embrace the new, that might be a good thing, right? Where we start to find this newness in ourselves that is more in alignment with our calling, with our spiritual path. So that might happen this week with Sun sextiling Neptune on Monday. Then on Tuesday we have the Mars squaring Neptune, and this can bring some confusion. So as we enter the week, we might feel confused, right? You can see on the chart here, Mars will square Neptune, 90-degree angle. Neptune is the planet of confusion. It's also the higher realms and spirituality and creativity and all those good things. But it's also confusion and deception. And Mars is our drive, it's action, it's how we do things, it's initiative. So what's happening here with this 90-degree angle, which is considered a stressful aspect in astrology, is that we might feel confused about what action to take, what initiative to take, right? And with a square 90-degree angle, the goal is always to adjust something so that we can resolve this friction. And what we need to adjust to resolve this friction, resolve this confusion now, is aligning our actions with our calling, aligning our actions with our path. And the fact that the Sun here sextiles Neptune a few hours before means what? Let me explain. Means that the Sun, our identity, falls in sync with our calling, right? A newness kind of setting in internally about aligning our soul, aligning our identity, aligning our consciousness, the Sun, with our calling, with our spiritual path, Neptune. So hours before, we go through this easy aspect that facilitates this adjustment of aligning our identity, soul, consciousness with our calling. And soon after, with Mars squaring Neptune, 90-degree angle, right? It just means that now our actions, now our drive, now our initiative needs to follow suit to align with this calling that our soul has already accepted. Okay, so that's Monday, Tuesday. So till Tuesday, we are doing this work of aligning with our calling, of aligning with our spiritual path, aligning with the higher realms, and there might be some confusion because of that. Now, the next highlight is something that happens on next Sunday. So the Sun will move on and conjunct Pluto. You can see this as well, right? And the Sun-Pluto conjunction is an energy that happens about once a year. And when it does, it starts a new cycle, right? Any conjunction is the starting point of a cycle. So in this case, we are starting a new cycle which is about what? Let's break it down. Pluto is transformation, it's ending, it's catharsis, it's beginnings, it's healing, it's release, right? And what is the Sun? The Sun is our soul, it's our consciousness, it's who we are on the inside. So when the Sun meets up with Pluto, what happens? Transformation to our identity, transformation to our soul, transformation to us. Or it could be a healing that we go through, or an ending of an old way of being and a beginning of a new one. So this is the beginning point of that almost yearly cycle, where we transform something, release something, end something, begin something connected to our soul, identity, and consciousness. And that happens on Sunday, Jan 16th. So these are the highlights. Another highlight, and then we'll move into the days day by day, is that towards the end of the week, more like next week beginning, we have a full moon in Cancer. You can see Cancer is right here. So the moon's going to move up to Cancer by the end of the week, 27 degrees of Cancer, and there's going to be a full moon. The moon's going to be right here opposing the sun, right? So full moons typically bring about release and endings, right? And this full moon is no different. And the fact is that this full moon is happening where the moon will oppose Pluto, which means that this full moon that we are building up to all of this week on Jan 17th will be a very transformative one. I will break down the full moon energy in the full moon video in detail, but very quick, just to give you the overview, it's going to be a transformative one because it's going to be in an opposition to Pluto. I should have mentioned this before, but the highlight of the week is that Mercury is going to go retrograde this week, right? Mercury right here is at 9 degrees. By Jan 14th, Friday, it's going to move up to 10 degrees and then it'll start its retrograde motion. So it's going to cover these degrees and move back. This is the area it's going to cover actually. So now, very briefly, Mercury retrogrades are a period where we review our thinking, our communication, our day-to-day, our routine, our lifestyle, our health, our diet. And Mercury retrogrades, generally speaking, are not the best time to sign new contracts. It's also a time where gadgets can malfunction. So starting Jan 14th up until Feb 3rd, Mercury will be in retrograde, right? And it is going to cover degrees from 10 degrees of Aquarius back to 24 degrees of Capricorn, this zone, right? And what that means is that for your personal charts, look at these degrees, 24 degrees of Capricorn to 10 degrees of Aquarius, and that's the area that will come up for review, particularly for you. So that's something very important that's happening this week, and I should have mentioned it before the Sun Pluto conjunction, but it just slipped my mind for some reason. Anyway, and Mercury, one more thing about Mercury retrograde is, I will discuss this on Friday's chart in detail because that's when Mercury will go retrograde, and I will tell you what the major themes are on Friday's horoscope. So if you want to watch that, you can just skip to Friday and watch that as well. But very briefly, Mercury retrogrades are also a period where our logical mind dampens down a little bit, right? But if you're born with Mercury retrograde, then you'll find that your thinking is sharper during this period. I was born with Mercury retrograde, and I do find that during Mercury retrogrades, I get more ideas and insights than I do at other times of the year. So yeah, those of you who are born with Mercury retrogrades, pay attention to that. Maybe you'll see your mind work a bit sharper, maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, Mercury retrograde is not very common. I believe 10% of the population has that. So it also makes your communication very inwards. So I find, especially with myself, that a lot of the communication stays like within, if that makes any sense. So now I'm going to get into the charts, and if you're someone who doesn't want the daily details, then you can just skip to the summary or the card reading and watch whichever part you want to watch. I will put down the main events for each day. So if you want to know about a particular event, you can click directly on that day and watch that. So let's get started. And one more thing, this chart is open to Pacific time, and in this video I will mention the Pacific time, right? If you are elsewhere in the world, you can always convert the Pacific time to your time zone to know when the energy is going to happen for you. So let's get started. Now let's start with Monday, 10th of Jan. So on Monday, the moon changes signs, right? The moon is right here at 00 Taurus, and the moon changes signs every 2.5 days. And when it does, the focus in our lives, the energy in our life shifts in subtle ways. Over the weekend, the moon was in Aries. Aries is a very go-getting sort of energy, right? It's a very impulsive energy. It's an energy that likes to do things and likes to do things fast. So that's the moon in Aries, and the moon doesn't really like to be in the sign of Aries because Aries is a Mars ruled energy, right? Mars is like, it's like getting things done, and the moon is our emotions, so it does not play very well in the sign of Aries. I know I have my moon in Aries, and it does give one that impulsive nature and wanting to do a lot of things really fast. So the moon doesn't feel very comfortable in Aries, but it loves to be in Taurus, where it enters Monday morning. What time is it? Let me see. About 7 a.m. Pacific time, right? So the moon is in Taurus now, and the moon loves to be in Taurus. It's exalted there. And the moon in Taurus is about being stable and secure, finding stability and security. It's about indulging our senses. It's about indulging our senses when it comes to being with nature or indulging in a good meal. So that's the sign of Taurus, and the moon loves to be there because our emotions feel secure when the moon is in Taurus. So that's the energy. Over the weekend, it was more of a very impulsive energy, but now the energy is stable, right? So that's how we enter Monday. And on the same day, we have one important aspect, and let's see that, right? Let's see that. So this happens in the evening sometime. Let me move up the chart, and okay, there we go. Okay, so this is about 7 p.m. Pacific time. And what's happening here is that the sun at 2050 is about to sextile Neptune, 60-degree angle. Okay, this is considered a positive aspect in astrology, and it makes things easy, right? Things just flow. And what's happening here? I did mention it in the overview, so I'll keep this part short. What's happening here is that the sun, our soul, our identity, our consciousness is making a positive aspect with Neptune, the planet of confusion, the planet of spirituality, the planet of the higher realms. So this is an aspect that will facilitate our identity, soul, consciousness falling more in alignment with our spiritual path, with our calling. And this is happening easily and organically. And on Monday, although this is not happening exact on Monday, Mars here is almost squaring Neptune. It'll come exact on Tuesday, but we'll begin to feel this energy of Neptune and Mars in a square, which means we might feel confused, right, about what to do, what action to take. And that's okay, because today we are aligning our identity, our soul, our consciousness with our calling. We're doing that work today. Tomorrow we will adjust our actions, our initiative to follow suit. So Monday we might feel slightly confused. Alternatively, if we engage in spiritual things, if we engage in creative things, Neptune, it might ease that confusion for us, right? Because the energy has to manifest. It has to manifest. Now it depends how it's going to manifest. It can manifest either as confusion, or it can manifest as spiritual, creative energy. So use it well, right? Stressful aspects don't necessarily mean stress. They just mean that the energy is there and it can manifest either way. So that's Monday in a nutshell. So to sum it up, I would say Monday is a more stable, secure day. Our identity, consciousness, and soul will begin to align with our spiritual path, with our calling. And we might also feel some sort of confusion in what action to take, what initiative to take. But that can be eased off by doing creative things, doing spiritual things. And Neptune is also the planet of things like meditation and yoga and poetry and writing. So engaging in those things definitely helps. right? Another thing that I want to mention before we move on is that you can see this right here, right? Mercury at 9 degrees is getting ready. It will not meet up Saturn exact. It will not, but they're very close. They're very close. 9 and 13, right? So Mercury is feeling the energy of Saturn. Mercury is our logical mind, and it's about to retrograde on Friday, but it's feeling that Saturnian vibe. And what is that vibe? That vibe is serious. That vibe is hard work. That vibe is academic, right? Saturn is academic. Saturn is serious. Saturn is wisdom. Saturn is decisions and commitments. So logically, we are feeling that intensity, and this might feel slightly challenging, right? Because our logical mind is being asked to decide, it's being asked to commit, it's being asked to work hard, right? But we are confused on Monday. We're confused. And let's not forget, Venus is retrograde. Although Saturn here is urging us to take action, not take action, it's urging us to, decide and commit and do all these things. Venus is retrograde. We are still reviewing. We don't know what action to take. We don't know what to do. And that's the point of the Venus retrograde, to figure it out. But we haven't got it figured out yet. And Mercury here will also retrograde, which means that we just don't have things figured out just yet. After the retrograde, we will have them figured out. So that's another energy that we can feel all of this week. Mercury and Saturn so close to each other, right? And let's not forget, Mercury here is also squaring Uranus, 90-degree angle. Uranus is sudden changes. Uranus is epiphanies, insights, and realizations, and Mercury is our logical mind. So throughout this week, we might be getting realizations and epiphanies and insights and aha moments. Or it could suddenly be changing up our diet or our routine or our job or our lifestyle, right? And again, this is the beginning of the process, and that's because Mercury here will retrograde, and it will cover this area again during retrograde, right? So let those insights come in, let those realizations come in, let those sudden changes happen. But realize that right now we are figuring it out, we're reviewing it out, right? So that's Monday in a nutshell. And now moving on to Tuesday. Let's go on to Tuesday, right? So Tuesday is a day that a lot is going on. So let's see that. And the first of those things happens quite early in the morning at about 3 a.m. No, earlier, 2 a.m. So this is 2 a.m. Pacific time, Tuesday. And what's happening here is that the moon, right, is in a square with Mercury, 90-degree angle, friction, change, right? That's what this represents. And what this could mean is that Mercury, our logical mind, is in conflict with our emotions. So we need to adjust something either emotionally or in our logical mind or in our diet health routine, so that our heart, our soul, our emotions are in alignment with our logical mind, right? This is that energy. Soon after this, at about, you can say, 4 a.m. Pacific time, we have Uranus conjuncting the moon. Now the moon is our emotions, and Uranus is a lot of energy, right? Uranus rules electricity, so it's a lot of energy. And what this could do is it can really make us feel like there's a lot going on emotionally, right? Our emotions can feel slightly frazzled at this point. Alternatively, it can bring about sudden changes to our emotions, to how we feel. So if you are feeling like a lot of emotional energy, it's because of this aspect, right? So let it pass. Now moving on, the moon will square Saturn, right here. So we have the moon right here at 13 degrees in a 90-degree angle with Saturn. Now, Moon-Saturn contacts don't feel the best, right? Saturn is hard work, decisions, discipline, commitments, and the Moon is our emotions. You see, emotions don't like all these things. Emotions just like to run free. So what's happening here is that we might feel a little stressed. We might feel a little low because Saturn can do that. And alternatively, this can help us decide things. This can help us make commitments, right? Although it's not the best time to decide something like with complete surety, because Venus is retrograde and Mercury is about to go retrograde. But this is an energy that can define things emotionally for us. And look at this. The Moon first meets up with Uranus and then moves on and squares Saturn, which means epiphanies, insights, realizations, or sudden changes to our emotions can eventually lead to decisions or commitments or definition to our emotions, right? Because the Moon first conjuncts Uranus and then squares Saturn. So that's about 9 a.m. Pacific time. And then moving on, we have a positive aspect in the afternoon. And what's happening here is that at about 3 p.m., 3 to 4 p.m. Pacific time, Venus here and the Moon here are in a trine, 120-degree angle positive. So at this point, probably let me go back a little bit because I want to talk about this first and then I'll come back to Venus. So at about 2 p.m. in the afternoon, right, Mars here and Neptune here square exact. So this is the peak of the intensity. This is the peak of that intensity that might lead to some confusion, right? This is the moment where the work we've been doing to align our actions with our calling, with our spiritual path, completes itself. Now it's going to move on Mars and the intensity will start to go down of that confusion. So we've done that work, right? We've probably done the work so that now we're beginning to get some clarity. And all this happens after what? After the Moon conjuncts Uranus and squares Saturn. And what does this mean? This means that sudden change to our emotions, that those insights, those epiphanies those realizations that might have come about when the Moon met up with Uranus, which could have led to decisions, commitments, hard work with the square to Saturn, helped us resolve this confusion about what path to take that we have been feeling in a temporary way, right? Because Venus is still retrograde. We're still reviewing. And soon after this, so this is when the confusion that I've been talking about starts to ease off for the week. Now moving on to about a couple of hours after, say about 4 p.m., the Moon and Venus trine, positive aspect. The Moon is our emotions and Venus is our projects and relationships. And right now we are reviewing those. So what this could mean is that as we resolve that confusion, as we take that hard decision or we define our emotions after a few sudden insights and epiphanies, we begin to feel positive. We begin to feel good about our relationships and projects. Trine, right? Trine, positive aspect. So this is 4 p.m. and that's Tuesday in a nutshell. So to sum it up, Tuesday, I would say there's a lot happening towards the morning. We have Moon squaring Mercury, Moon conjuncting Uranus, Moon squaring Saturn, all so-called stressful aspects, but all aspects that will help us change, grow, and evolve. And we also have the Mars-Neptune square peak out today, and then the intensity from about 3 p.m. in the afternoon will start to go down, which means that confusion reached its peak today and now it's starting to go down. It's also a great day to do spiritual things, creative things, yoga, meditation, writing, poetry, all Neptunian things, and that might help us ease that confusion. Or very simply, being true to our spiritual path will help us. And towards the afternoon, after we go through all these changes and intensities, towards the afternoon, we have a positive aspect with Moon trining Venus saying that, okay, I feel good. I feel positive about this project, this relationship, or whatever I'm reviewing. So that's Tuesday in a nutshell. Now moving on to Wednesday, the first important event happens close to 1 a.m. I believe. Yeah, 1 a.m. Pacific time. And what's happening here is that the moon at 20 degrees of Taurus is sextiling Neptune. A lot of Neptune this week. Positive. So our emotions, the moon, are in a positive aspect with the planet of spirituality and creativity. So again, we can feel very spiritual. We can feel very sensitive, right? We can feel very sensitive because Neptune is contacting the moon, our emotions. Overall, this energy can bestow a lot of creative and spiritual potential. It's not negative, it's not stressful. So it's an easy energy. So that's something that we begin Wednesday with, 12th Jan. And that's pretty much it for the whole day till 7 p.m. in the evening. So let's see what happens then. So at about 7 p.m. in the evening, at about 8 p.m. in the evening, the moon here enters the sign of Gemini. Now the moon has changed signs, and what this means is that in a very subtle way, the energy in our life is going to shift, right? From being stable, secure, grounded, indulging in good food, finding our security, indulging in nature, spending time in nature. It's about Gemini. Gemini is communication. Gemini is a lot of energy. It's a very fun-loving energy. It's a very playful energy. And that's the positive. But every energy has a positive and a negative. And the negative of Gemini is that it can be overly stimulating. And the North Node, right, is right there. And a North Node is a magnifier. So it's magnifying that Gemini energy of being overly stimulated. So with the moon in Gemini for the next 2.5 days, it's important for us to slow down when things get too much, to take a step back when things get too much, right? It's not too much in a negative sense. It's just like, I want to do this, I want to talk about this, I want to learn about this, I want to do all these things, and I want to do them all at once. So let's do them. That's a Gemini, right? So, and sometimes that can leave us overly stimulated. So that's the moon in Gemini. And this is 8 p.m. in the evening, right? And it's going to conjunct the North Node as soon as it enters Gemini. And like I explained, this will magnify that Gemini energy. And the North Node is also a karmic point, right? It's the point of the future. So this is a point where we might really align our emotions in some ways with the path that we've chosen, with the path that we are on. And this happens once a month, right? The moon conjuncts the North Node once a month. So that's what's going on Wednesday evening. So that's Wednesday in a nutshell. And I would say Wednesday is a day. And before I move on, one more thing is that throughout Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Mercury here will be very close to Saturn and in a square to Uranus. So the whole week, for at least these few days, and you can say the whole week, we will be receiving insights, epiphanies, realizations, and at the same time, a pressure to decide, a pressure to commit, a pressure to define things in our lives. But we are not ready yet. We are not ready because Mercury is retrograde, and we are not ready because Venus is retrograde right here, and we're not ready because Mercury also is about to go retrograde. So we'll feel this pressure building, but we're not completely ready this week. Moving on to Thursday, right? The first important thing happens at about 4 a.m. Is it? Let me check. The moon, no, a little earlier. Say about 3 a.m. Pacific time, Thursday morning, the moon in Gemini is going to square Jupiter, 90-degree angle. The moon is our emotions, and Jupiter is blessings, rewards, gifts, healing. So what could be happening here is that it's also the planet of hope and optimism. So what could be happening here is that we might not feel very hopeful or optimistic at this point. Also, Jupiter is a magnifier as well, so our emotions could be really running high at this time. So just be mindful of that. And the goal here with a square is to maintain that optimism, maintain that joy, or learn an emotional lesson. Jupiter is also lessons. So that's how we begin Thursday. And then moving on to at about, what time is this? Say about noon Pacific time, right? We have the moon sextile Chiron. Chiron is the planet of our wounds, it's the planet of our pain, and now it's contacting the moon, but this is a positive aspect, sextile. So what this means is that we might be going through some emotional healing. Yeah, I think that's what it means. There might be some emotional healing, and this emotional healing comes from within, right? Because Chiron was a wounded healer. He healed himself. So we need to heal ourselves because the moon is contacting Chiron right now. And then in the afternoon at about 3 p.m. in the afternoon, the moon here is going to, it was 4 p.m. trine Mercury, 120-degree angle, and this is a point where our emotions, the moon, is making a positive aspect with Mercury, a logical mind. So our head and our heart are in sync in some ways at this point. And then moving on to about 11 p.m. The moon's going to move on and it's going to trine Saturn. Moon, Saturn, 120-degree angle, positive. This is 10 p.m. Pacific time. And the moon is the emotions and Saturn is hard work, decisions, discipline, commitment, but this is a positive aspect. So what could be happening here is that automatically a decision might come about. Automatically a definition to our emotions might come about. So this is that energy, right? It does not feel very stressful. We did the work on Tuesday when the moon squared Saturn. Now is when you can say the positive results of that work is coming about, because first there's a square 90-degree, right? And then there's a trine. So it's always you do the work and then things start to flow. Now moving on to Friday. Now Friday, Mercury goes retrograde. So let's see that chart. Okay, there we go. So you can see Mercury right here is in black font, right? Now this is 2:48 a.m. Now if I move it up by an hour, it changes to red font, right? You can see this. And now Mercury has gone retrograde. So let's talk a little bit about this. Mercury retrogrades are not the best time to start new things when it comes to contracts and communication. Gadgets can malfunction and our logical thinking does slow down slightly. And Mercury retrogrades are a period of review when it comes to our thinking, communication, diet, health, lifestyle, routine, job, etc. All Mercury things. But more importantly, this Mercury retrograde will be from Aquarius to Capricorn, right? 24 Capricorn to 10 Aquarius. So look at your personal chart. This is the area that will come up for review for your particular life. Now, this Mercury retrograde, right? This Mercury retrograde is happening in an almost exact square to Uranus, right? And it's happening in close proximity with Saturn. And this Mercury retrograde is also in a sextile with Chiron. 3 important aspects are going on. And let's break these down one by one. Mercury and Uranus. Uranus is epiphanies, insights, sudden changes, realizations, being our true, unique, authentic self, raising our vibration. And Mercury is our logical mind. So what could be happening here? And Mercury is also diet, health, lifestyle, routine, job. So what could be happening here is that we might be receiving a lot of insights, epiphanies, and realizations, or there might be sudden changes to Mercury, things that we will review over Mercury's retrograde, right? Sudden changes to our diet, health, lifestyle, routine, job, social media, immediate environment, peer group, all Mercury things. And I know sudden changes that we will review sounds kind of contradictory, but it might just be like, okay, I need to change this. And then throughout the retrograde period, you're figuring out, okay, is this right for me? Is this not right for me? Okay, I think this is right for me, but this part needs to change. An energy like that. And that's the first thing. The second thing is that Mercury here will be with Saturn, right? It's feeling the Saturnian energy of decisions, commitments, and all those things. So as we are feeling these insights, epiphanies, realizations, and changes connected to our diet, health, lifestyle, routine, communication, and thinking, we are also asked to decide. We are also asked to commit. So throughout this retrograde period, we'll be figuring it out, right? These are the changes. These are the insights. These are the changes that will help me be more my unique, authentic self. But it will also ask you to decide and commit. But you don't have to do it now. This is not the energy for this week. This is the energy for the entire retrograde zone, right? So it's a slow process. But these are the themes of the retrograde. And with the sextile to Chiron, what's happening here is that those sudden changes, insights, epiphanies, realizations, that can help us take decisions, make commitments, or simply work hard, have a healing impact. So that's the overall theme of Mercury retrograde. And Mercury will be in retrograde till Feb 3rd. So that's the highlight of Friday, right? That's the highlight of Friday. And now is the time where we'll also begin to feel the Sun Pluto conjunction energy, right? They're pretty close. That need to transform our identity, that need to end something connected to our identity, begin something connected to our identity or soul. We are feeling it. We're feeling it by now. And let me just check if there's anything else that's left. Oh yeah. So Mercury in the sign of Aquarius, Mercury retrograde in the sign of Aquarius will really ask us to review themes connected to our true, unique, authentic self, right? Aquarius is that. Aquarius is also science, tech, and innovation. So on a general level, these are the themes that will come up for review as well. And in Capricorn, it will be about committing to things and being serious about things. So those are the general themes on Friday. And there are two more aspects that I want to talk about for Friday. And the first one happens close to, let's see this. So this is happening, one sec. Yeah, there we go. This is happening at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And what's happening here is that the moon is squaring Neptune. And this again can make us feel slightly confused. And this can also bring about a feeling of feeling low or feeling overly sensitive and reacting to things we wouldn't react to otherwise. So just be mindful of that, right? And we also have another important aspect in the evening at about 7 p.m. Pacific time. And what's happening here is that the moon is opposing Mars. So what could be happening here is that we might feel slightly frustrated, right? And the goal is to integrate these two elements. And opposition always requires us to integrate elements. So here we need to integrate our emotions with our drive, right? So that's the energy. But try not to get angry and frustrated at this point because the tendency is there. So that's how we end Friday, right? And moving on to Saturday. So we have two things to discuss for Saturday. And let's see those two things. First happens at about, one sec, where is the moon? Okay, there we go. So this is about 9 a.m. Pacific time, and the moon has changed signs. It's entered the sign of Cancer. And this is where we will have the full moon on Monday. And the moon in Cancer is an energy that's about self-care. It's about loving yourself. It's about nourishing yourself. And for the next 2.5 days, that is going to be the focus. It's about being with family and friends and going within, right? Cancer is a very internal sort of energy. It's about these things. And the moon feels comfortable in Cancer. It rules the sign of Cancer. So it's a good placement for it. So that's the first thing that happens. And in the afternoon, at about 2 p.m., I believe, yeah, about 3 p.m. in the afternoon, the moon trines Jupiter. This is a positive aspect, right? At this point, we can really feel hopeful and optimistic and joyous, or we can learn lessons in a not so stressful manner. So that's Saturday in a nutshell. So Saturday is about nourishing yourself, indulging in self-care, and there might be a moment in the day, 3 p.m. in the afternoon, where we feel very positive and optimistic, or we learn a lesson that comes about quite easily. So that's Saturday. Now moving on. Oh, and by the way, on Saturday, we still have this energy of the Sun Pluto conjunction. So we're feeling that intensity, that need to transform our soul identity, consciousness. Now moving on to Sunday, right? Let's move on to Sunday. In the morning at about 2 a.m., sorry. Yeah, at about 2 a.m., the moon in Cancer squares Chiron. So at this point, with the moon squaring Chiron, our emotions squaring the planet of our wounds and our pain, we can come face to face with our pain. And the goal here is to overcome that pain and move past it. And we can only do that for ourselves, right? We can only heal ourselves. So that's 2 a.m. in the morning. And moving on, the Sun Pluto conjunction comes exact early in the morning on Sunday. So let's see that happen. And there we go, it's happened. So this is about 7 a.m. Pacific time. The Sun and Pluto have met up 26, 26, 26, 26. And this is the point where that energy of transforming, ending, beginning, healing something connected to our identity, soul, consciousness begins, right? The conjunction is a beginning point, and this happens about once a year. So this transformation cycle, this ending cycle, beginning cycle connected to our identity is something we will work on for the next year, right? So this is that beginning of that cycle that we go through every year. This is that beginning point where we start to see changes, we start to transform our identity, or we start to heal something in ourselves, Pluto. Or we start another year of spiritual growth, spiritual change. Pluto is also spiritual transformation. So that's the highlight of Sunday. And in the afternoon at about 1 p.m. we will have, this is 2 p.m. actually, 2 p.m. the moon in Cancer opposes Venus retrograde. This is a point where we might not feel best about the review process that we are undergoing connected to our relationships and projects. And again, the goal is to integrate our emotions with this review process, right? Maybe we need to adjust something in our emotions so that we don't feel not the best about Venus things. So this is that energy. And that's how we end the week. And really quick, I'll open up the chart for the full moon, which happens on Monday, and then I'll show you guys right now. Okay, let's see that. So that's that. So this is 17th Jan, Monday, and we have a full moon in Cancer. You can see the moon is in Cancer, right? It is opposing the sun. This is a full moon when the sun and the moon oppose. And full moons typically are completion points, are ending points, are culmination points, are release points, right? So that's what we are going to be doing. And very quick, this full moon you can see is in an almost exact opposition to Pluto. Pluto is transformation, it's healing, it's catharsis, but it's endings and beginnings also. So this full moon will be a very transformative one, right, with Pluto right there. I will break this down in the full moon video in detail. And over the weekend, we will be feeling this. We will be feeling this intensity, this build up for the full moon, right? Because the moon's going to be in Cancer when Saturday morning it enters the sign of Cancer. So we'll start to feel the intensity of this, of the transformation that's coming. And right now, there's a lot going on when it comes to Pluto, right? And why is that? This moon, Pluto is almost in an exact opposition to it, right? Venus retrograded with Pluto, right? It was almost conjunct Pluto. So Pluto is there as well. And this Mercury retrograde will meet up Pluto twice, 2 more times. It's already met up once. So there's a lot about transformation. There's a lot about letting go. There's a lot about releasing things. There's a lot about ending things. There's a lot about beginning things. It's connected to our relationships and projects and self-worth and values and skills and our appearance even, Venus. And it's also connected to our day-to-day, our diet, our health, our lifestyle, our routine, our job, Mercury, our communication, our social media. So that's why there's a lot about transformation right now, but it's review right now. It's review with the retrogrades. So that's the week in a nutshell. And to sum it up, I would say that this week is about, one, it's about making those adjustments with the first quarter square energy. It's about aligning our identity and consciousness and our actions with our spiritual calling. It's about reviewing a lot of things, a lot of review, and it's a week where we begin a new cycle, a yearly cycle almost, connected to our identity with the Sun Pluto conjunction, and Mercury does go retrograde, so the review process begins. And next week we have very important events, Monday and Tuesday. Monday is the full moon. You can see this is Monday. Tuesday we'll have 2 important events. Uranus here is going to go direct, and we'll see a nodal shift. So let's just see that real quick, and we'll discuss it more next week. Okay, so let's see that. Okay, there we go. Uranus has gone direct. So at about 7 a.m. Tuesday morning, Uranus is retrograde, red font, right? I'm going to move up the chart by an hour, and that's gone direct. By 8 a.m., it's going to go direct on Tuesday. And the nodal shift, let's see that. The node's right here, Gemini, right? 00 Gemini. And I'm going to move up the chart, and let's see when they shift. There we go. And at about noon, they've changed. Scorpio South Node, Uranus, Taurus North Node. Nodes have shifted. So there's a lot of shift happening next week, right? A lot of shift happening. And the Sun also on Jan 19th. Sun's finishing up in Capricorn. It's entering Aquarius. So we'll see that shift as well. So Monday into Tuesday are energies that are very big energies, that are energies that will cause a shift of sorts. And the nodal cycle is an 18-month cycle. So for the past 18 months, we've been working on one theme, and now the theme is going to shift. I will discuss more about these things in next week's video, but I just thought I'd give you a heads up for what's in store for next week. And next week we have Uranus going direct, the nodes changing signs, Sun entering the sign of Aquarius, where it does not really like to be, and that's how we have next week. So that's pretty much it for this week, and I would say that, yeah, that's pretty much it. So now I will pick a few cards for this week's energy, and then we'll close it out, right? Something fell. It says security. This is a Taurus card, right? So something about this week says find your security. And this need not mean material security, right? It's about emotional security. It's about internal security. Because look at the energy. Look at the energy. Look at how much Capricorn and Aquarius we have and how much we are changing and letting go of Pluto. And when we go through this, we've been through a lot of change in the past 2 years. Saturn-Uranus square, the Saturn-Pluto conjunction of 2020, the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction of December 2020, the Saturn-Uranus square of 2021 and 2022, and now Venus retrograding, almost conjunct Pluto, Mercury conjuncting Pluto twice during its retrograde, and so much energy in Capricorn where we have Pluto, and Aquarius where we have Saturn. So it's not the easiest time. It's not negative, but it's not the easiest time. And we must find our inner security this week. That's the first card. Let's do that again. Okay, let's do that again. It says courage. And I think this week we also must have courage, right? We must have courage this week and we must find our security. So that's the energy. Let's go with this deck. Shelter. This is the moon in Cancer, right? Moon in Cancer is about self-care. It's about nourishing yourself. And look how they're taking shelter here. And this is about really nourishing yourself, right? Because you're cherished. So maybe focus on that, nurturing yourself, on close family and friends, because this is a card that says that in many ways. So that's another energy that we're going to have this week. We pick a lesson card. It says envy. I am the same as everybody, but with different challenges. And I think this week, again, we must really embrace our uniqueness, right? Because when we embrace our uniqueness, things like envy just disappear, because your path is your unique path. Nobody can walk your path, and that will help us get rid of that envy, right? This is the lesson card. So the lesson for this week is to maybe just embrace our uniqueness. Go with one more and then we'll close it out. 2 cards. It says never-ending story and it says a change in the wind, right? And I think these 2 cards are the most appropriate cards for this week's reading, and that's simply because never-ending story, Pluto is about letting go, right? It's about ending. It's about letting go of things that have been with us for a long time and that we haven't been able to let go of. So what is that never-ending story in your life that you need to let go of? We are reviewing that with Venus in retrograde and now Mercury. We need to figure that out. And a change in the wind. And we need to end this old story because there's a change coming, right? Next week, we're going to have a shift. The nodes are going to change signs. Uranus is going to go direct. And in the next 2 weeks, Venus will go direct and so will Mercury. And all the planets will be direct in the month of Feb, right? And what that means is a lot of forward movement will happen. So a change is coming, right? So we need to be able to end that thing that's not in alignment with us anymore. And this could also mean that if we end this never-ending story, if we choose to end this never-ending story, there will be a change in the wind. So I think that sums it up for this week. And Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and to sum it up real quick, I would say the lesson for this week is to embrace our uniqueness, because if we embrace our uniqueness, envy goes away, right? That's when we realize that our path is uniquely ours and someone else's path is uniquely theirs. So that's the lesson for this week. It's also about nourishing yourself, especially as the moon enters the sign of Cancer over the weekend and builds up to the full moon in the sign of Cancer, right? This full moon is about self-care and nourishing. Those are the Cancerian themes. Of course, where 27 degrees of Cancer is for you, but generally speaking, that's the theme of Cancer. Cancer is the sign that's about motherhood, right? It's about nourishment. And look at this card. This is a mom nourishing her kids. So we need to be that for ourselves. We need to nourish our own self this week. And what is that never-ending story that you need to end, that can bring about a change in the wind, and that might require us to have some courage? And this week is also about finding that internal security and perhaps figuring out what needs to go will give us that security, because sometimes there are things in our lives that remove our security, that make us insecure, right? What are those things for you? Don't act this week. We have 2 personal planets in retrograde, but review, think this week. And that's the energy for the week. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Bye.